Hello, and welcome to another Oki Solo Channel YouTube video. So, I know it's been a minute. I've just been busy. So today I wanted to talk about the J16 Matriline, how I came to know them, and how, some bullet points on how I think they're kind of a microcosm of what the southern resident killer whale population is facing these days. So to be clear, this is not going to be a comprehensive overview. This is meant to be more of trying to share why I think personalizing animals in conservation is useful and matters. As a quick aside, this is a gin and tonic in a tonic glass that my sister got me that has a laser etched killer on it because it seemed on theme. So anyways, so I was introduced to the southern residents because the live-action killer whale footage in Free Willy is the southern resident killer whales, and I grew up on those movies. I'm a kid in the 90s, So, fun fact, if you didn't know that, by the way, those are southern resident killer whales. And so I kept saying that, at some point, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to go see the southern resident killer whales, and that finally happened for me in 2017. So the trip ended up being planned because the Center for Killer Whale Research was hosting this workshop called Research Action Recovery. And I was real excited, and I was like, I'm pulling the trigger here for this one because there was going to be a lot of killer whale scientists there, and I was going to get to meet them. It was really cool. So the reason why this is prominently displayed is A, because I'm Mike Big fan, and this is the only piece of his published literature that I own, but also because when I met Ken Balcom at this event, he signed it for me. So it's pretty special. And then after the workshop, a bunch of killer whale scientists were telling their stories of different whales they liked, and I had this very wow, I'm really happy to be in this time and place. So I ended up buying a copy of this from the event, and I had several of the people who were there sign it, just because I just wanted to have, the Ken Balcom signing the photo catalog was just because I'm a nerd about the photo catalog, and I wanted him to sign it. But I also wanted a piece of something to to bring home to remember the people and the stories that were there, because I think stories matter. So then the next day, I had a brief encounter with the L4 Matriline, and I mean brief. So to be honest, they were the first killer whales I ever saw in the wild, but beyond that, it didn't really sit with me. But that evening, I went on a evening cruise, and we ended up following the J16 Matriline, and it was much more leisurely, and it was much more time. And so I spent, what's the word I'm looking for? They live rent-free in my head, I guess, So at that time, the J16 Matriline consisted of J16, her son J26, and her daughters J36, 42, and J50. And J36 also had a calf that was J52. And so, by the way, J26 was a beautiful individual. Every male killer whale I'd seen up till that point was in captivity, and so they had that flopped over dorsal fin. And so J26 holds the distinction of being the first beautiful, tall, prominent, fully in his prime male killer whale. He was the furthest ahead, and then J16 and J36 were probably 100 yards behind him, and then trailing behind were the three youngsters, and we were roughly parallel to the youngsters, and we were watching them catch salmon and interact with each other and play and be goobers and siblings and cousins and aunts, or whatever relationship you want to get into there, because actually I'll get into that later. But there was this beautiful moment, at least to me, and I honestly think it was the coolest predatory event I've ever seen in the wild, where J46 caught a salmon, and then J50 raced over to try and steal it from her, and J42 pulled her head up out of the water and J50 was like trying to take it from her, and I had this very like crazy moment. I'm an older brother, by the way. I had this crazy moment where I was like, wow, younger sisters are annoying regardless of what species you are. And so the entire encounter really stuck with me, because it was like one of those like Star Trek, like perhaps we're not so different after all moments. And so then like I went home and I started doing a lot of reading about the J16 Matriline, and we were far enough away from the whales that I couldn't make body condition on them. And so like that was in July, late July, by the way, July 22nd, I think. And that September, J52 was declared deceased. And so like that was one of those like, oh, that's not so cool. And then the next year it got even crazier, because so like summer 2018 is what a lot of people remember, is specifically J35 was pushing around a dead calf for like 16 or 17 days. So we got a lot of news coverage, and like people paid attention for a while. And but there was like an even bigger story happening to me at that time, where J50 was deteriorating and fast, and like NOAA and a bunch of other bodies were like talking about like, do we want to intervene? Do we want to XYZ? Which was crazy, because like for the last like 20 years, the like general consensus was like, don't touch it. And so the idea that like things had gotten so bad that like we should intervene. At one point they darted her with like antibiotics. There was talk of putting like live salmon in her path to try and like help her get some extra food, because she was emaciated. And she ended up dying that September too. And that one hit me pretty hard, because like I had that moment where like I saw my younger sister in her, and yeah. And then there was like this is all stuff I knew before. Like the next few steps we're going to get into is stuff I knew before, but like it seemed so much more real now that I had like an individual that I was looking like, that I feel like I knew, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't just like a stat on like a spreadsheet. It was like, it was an individual with a life and whatever. And like the loss of 52 was really crazy, because that calf was born in 2015 and J50 was born in December 2014. So both of them were under 3 years old. And that means that the youngest still living member of the J16 Matriline as of filming in June 2026 is J42, who was born in 2007. So that means this pod has gone almost 20 years without a surviving calf. And due to a myriad of new research techniques where we can like get samples of their breath, to being able to find and collect fecal samples, and phototelemetry, like scientists are better able to track like body condition, hormone levels, like infections, like these genuine health reports of these animals. And we've managed to track like half a dozen failed pregnancies between J16's living daughters. And I think both of them have had a calf that didn't make it to a month since I saw the family. And so like they're consistently failing to reproduce. And it just comes down to there's not enough food, which like really makes you go back, and it's like was it not a playful like younger sibling trying to mess with their older sibling and steal their food? Was it genuine, like was it like desperation or something like that? Like we'll never know. But the thing that's really crazy is that like these family members, they definitely love each other, and they definitely have like scientists, they don't like anthropomorphizing. And so like to the point where like they'll use like names names like J50, and you'll notice that I'm using J50 instead of Scarlet, which is the like common name, or like Mike, and that's just because they were introduced to me as J26 and J50, so those are their names to me. That's not a commentary on like I think it's more proper or anything. I honestly think it's ridiculous that scientists feel the need to do that, like given that like people will use the same kind of affection, being like, oh, J50, she's so cute, it's a name. You're just pretending it's not, because you want the appearance of objectivity. But like there's just not enough food. Like we've screwed up the salmon run so bad that there's like people will argue like it's shipping traffic and noise and blah 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 blah. But these are all things that just inhibit them finding the foods that's there. So like it's just it's like that, like Rick and Morty, where it's like, that just sounds like slavery with extra steps. It just sounds like enough food with extra steps. Like it's these are all problems that need to be solved if we're going to save them. But realistically, we need to have made those changes like 10 years ago, because now this is a family that hasn't had a successful like calf in 20 years, and honestly, like, and there are going to be people that probably don't like that I'm going to say this, but given current political climate, I don't see any of those changes that need to happening in the next few years. So I think we're kind of looking at a ghost population here. Like, and another aspect that I want to talk about here is that like J26 is the father of J42 and was the father of J52. And that's rather unusual. We don't know if that's a like character quirk of J26, or if it's like because the population is losing a bunch of like individuals. There's just a lack of opportunities there. Like, and you can flip it around, but like I think it was like L41. Yeah, L41. He was the father of like 20 calves at some point. So like, and the entire population is only like 75 individuals. So at some point or another, that's another hurdle this population would have to solve. So what do I think we can do? I'm going to be honest, I really don't know. And so I just wanted to share my story, because since this is a population that's like, I think is dying out, I think it's important to share the stories and put them in an area where we can all find them, because it's kind of like that, like when there's like one last speaker of a language, like someone will go out and like record it, and so that it's like that language exists in some way. And so that's all this is here, is just me trying to make sure that they exist in some small way. If you do want to contribute to like the documentation of this population, I would donate money to the Center for Whale Research. They've been doing amazing work since 1976, and they're still doing it to this day. If you're like a donor, they'll like, or a member, or whatever they want to call it, they'll send you like updates, like email updates every time that they have a sighting, and like give you a little bit of it. So like you can keep tabs on individuals that you want to. It's really cool. I know these last few videos have been a little morose, but I think these are important conversations to have, and I hope that they meant something to someone out there. I promise the next few videos are going to be a lot more fun, but I would say stay curious and go out there and read as much about these individuals as you can, and donate or contribute in any ways that you can. Later.